What would you do if the person you loved, the person you built a life with, suddenly looked you in the eyes and said they wanted to live like roommates? Not divorce, not separation, just roommates. Co-parents under the same roof, pretending everything was fine for the kids while living completely separate lives. That's exactly what happened to me. And I said yes. But here's the twist nobody saw coming, least of all my wife. I actually became okay with it. More than okay, actually. And when she realized what she'd lost, when she saw me genuinely moving forward and being happy without her, when her own friends started showing interest in me, well, let's just say she wanted to rewrite the whole story. But by then, I had already closed that book. This is the story of how I went from a heartbroken husband to a man who chose himself and his kids over someone who thought I'd wait forever. Stick around, because this journey taught me more about self-respect than I ever thought possible.
It was a Tuesday evening. Isn't it always a regular day when your whole world falls apart? I remember because our kids, Emma, who was 7, and Jake, who was 5, had just gone to bed after a particularly chaotic dinner, where Jake had somehow gotten spaghetti sauce in his hair. We were laughing about it while cleaning the kitchen, and for a moment, everything felt normal. That's when my wife, Sarah, turned to me with that look. You know the look. The one that says, "We need to talk," without actually saying the words. My stomach dropped immediately. "Can we sit down?" she asked, her voice unnaturally calm. We sat at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd celebrated birthdays, done homework with the kids, had date nights over takeout when we were too tired to go out. The table that held so many memories was about to become the site of the worst conversation of my life. "I don't think I'm in love with you anymore," she said. Just like that. No build-up, no cushioning the blow. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. My mouth went dry and I couldn't find words for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only seconds. "What?" It was all I could manage. She looked down at her hands, twisting her wedding ring. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I care about you. You're a great father. You're a good person. But the romantic feelings, they're just gone. I don't know when it happened, but I can't pretend anymore." Here's where it gets interesting. Instead of suggesting couples therapy or giving us a chance to fix things, she presented what she called a solution. I don't want to disrupt the kids' lives. They're so young, and a divorce would devastate them. So I was thinking, what if we just lived like roommates? We keep the house, we co-parent, we maintain stability for Emma and Jake, but we live separate lives. No expectations of each other beyond being good parents. I sat there, stunned. Roommates? She wanted to turn our marriage into a business arrangement? "Are you serious right now?" I asked. "Completely. Think about it. The kids get to keep their home, their routine, both parents under one roof. We don't have to go through a messy divorce, split assets, fight over custody. We just coexist peacefully." There was something in her tone. Something too rehearsed, too prepared. And that's when the terrible thought crossed my mind. "Is there someone else?" The pause before she answered told me everything. "I've developed feelings for someone," she admitted. "Nothing physical has happened, but yes, there's someone at work. And before you ask, I'm not leaving you for him. This is about me figuring out what I want. This arrangement gives everyone what they need." Everyone except me, apparently. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? The woman I'd been married to for 9 years, the mother of my children, had just friend-zoned me in the most permanent way possible, and she had feelings for someone else. But here's the thing about rock bottom. It gives you clarity. By morning, I'd made a decision that surprised even me. I agreed to her arrangement. "Okay," I said over coffee while she got the kids ready for school. "We'll try it your way." Her eyes widened. I think she'd expected me to fight, to beg, to make some grand romantic gesture to win her back. "Really?" she asked. "Really.
But we have ground rules. We split household duties 50-50. We're both fully involved parents. We maintain respect and civility, and we're both free to live our own lives however we want. That last part was key, though I didn't realize how key until later. Of course, she agreed, actually looking relieved. I think this is really mature of us. Mature. Right. That's one word for it. The first few weeks were bizarre. We moved into separate bedrooms. I took the guest room and actually made it my own space, something I'd never really done with any room in the house. I put up some artwork I liked, got a new reading chair, made it feel like mine. We created a schedule for kid duties. I took morning routine, she took evenings. We alternated weekends. We divided cooking nights. On paper, it was the picture of modern co-parenting. But emotionally, I was dying inside. I'd see her getting dressed up for work drinks or texting on her phone with a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months, maybe years if I was honest with myself. I knew she was seeing that guy from our office, building whatever it was they were building. And it hurt. God, it hurt. Here's what I didn't expect. Focusing on myself and my kids actually started to feel good. Without the energy drain of trying to save a dying marriage, without the constant wondering if tonight would be the night Sarah wanted me again, I had space to just be. I started working out, not obsessively, not to try to win her back, but because I needed an outlet for all the emotion I was carrying. I'd go to the gym at 5:30 in the morning before the kids woke up. The physical exhaustion helped quiet my mind. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with over the years. Mike, my college roommate, started a weekly basketball game. I hadn't played in years, and it felt amazing to just be one of the guys again, laughing and trash-talking and not thinking about my complicated home life for a couple of hours. Most importantly, I became a more present father. With my emotional energy no longer tied up in my dying marriage, I could give Emma and Jake my full attention. We started having special daddy-kid days every weekend. The zoo, the science museum, bike rides, building blanket forts, baking cookies that turned out terrible, but we ate anyway. My kids were thriving, and so was I. It was 2 months into this arrangement when something shifted. I was making breakfast one Saturday, and Emma came down in her princess pajamas. "Daddy, you seem happy," she said, munching on the pancakes I'd made. "I am happy, sweetheart," I replied, and realized I meant it. I was happy, not in spite of my situation, but because I'd stopped waiting for Sarah to change her mind. I'd stopped putting my life on hold. I'd started living again. The shift didn't go unnoticed. There was a school fundraiser event, one of those family fun nights where parents volunteer and everyone pretends to enjoy overpriced baked goods and carnival games. Sarah and I both went, maintaining our friendly co-parent image. I was manning the ring toss booth when I noticed a few of the moms from school hanging around more than necessary. Jessica, who I knew vaguely from school pickup, started a conversation about the basketball game coming up. Then Lisa asked if I'd be interested in joining the parent social committee. It was nice. I was being seen as me, not just as Sarah's husband or Emma and Jake's dad. At one point, Jessica touched my arm while laughing at something I said, and I glanced over to see Sarah watching from across the gym. Her expression was unreadable, but she was definitely watching. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, she came to my room. This alone was unusual. We'd maintained strict boundaries about our separate spaces. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Sure. What's up?" She sat on my reading chair, looking uncomfortable. "I noticed you were pretty popular tonight." I shrugged. I was just helping with the event. "Jessica was pretty touchy," she said, and there was an edge to her voice. "Was she? I genuinely hadn't thought much about it." "You didn't notice her flirting with you?" This was rich, coming from the woman who'd asked to be roommates so she could pursue someone else. Sarah, I thought the whole point of this arrangement was that we live our own lives? It is, she said quickly. I don't want the kids confused if you start dating. I'm not dating anyone, but even if I were, we agreed we're both free to live however we want. That was your rule, remember? She left my room without another word.
Things got more interesting when Sarah's own friend group entered the picture. Sarah had 3 close friends, Michelle, Rebecca, and Amanda. They'd been her crew since college, and they'd always been around peripherally during our marriage. They knew about our arrangement since Sarah had apparently told them everything. What Sarah didn't anticipate was that they'd see the new me and be impressed. It started with Michelle. She texted me out of the blue asking if I could help her move some furniture since her husband was out of town. I said sure, always happy to help a friend. When I got there, she had wine and pizza ready as a thank you. We ended up talking for 2 hours about life, goals, her struggling marriage, my situation. You know, you're handling this whole thing with Sarah really well, Michelle said. A lot of guys would be bitter or falling apart, but you seem like you're actually thriving. I'm just trying to focus on what I can control, I told her. My health, my happiness, being a good dad. Sarah's an idiot, Michelle said bluntly. Sorry, I know she's my friend, but what she did, asking for this roommate thing so she could pursue some guy? That's selfish. You deserved better. It felt validating to hear, even if it was just her opinion. Then, Rebecca invited me to her birthday dinner. It was a whole group thing, but still, I was included in Sarah's friend group activities independently now. At dinner, Rebecca sat me next to Amanda, who'd recently gone through a divorce. Amanda and I clicked immediately. We swapped war stories about navigating single life while co-parenting. We laughed about the absurdity of dating apps, neither of us actually using them, but both having friends with horror stories. We discovered we both loved hiking and made plans to do a trail with our kids together. It was all innocent, just friendship. But I could see how it looked from the outside.
The irony of ironies, Sarah's office romance fizzled out. I didn't get all the details, nor did I want them. But from what I pieced together, the guy she'd been interested in started dating someone else in their department. Someone younger, apparently, which I'm sure stung. Suddenly, Sarah was home more. She started suggesting family dinners again. She'd linger in the kitchen when I was cooking, trying to make conversation beyond logistics about the kids. "How was your day?" she'd ask. "Good. Busy at work, hit the gym, picked up Jake from soccer." "That's nice. You've been working out a lot." "Yeah, it helps me clear my head." She'd pause, like she was waiting for me to say more, to open up to her the way I used to. But that door had closed. I was polite, friendly even, but emotionally, I'd moved on. One evening, I was getting ready to go out. Amanda and I were taking our kids to a movie, just as friends, but I'd actually put effort into my appearance. A nice shirt, cologne, made sure my hair looked good. Sarah watched me from the doorway of my room. "You look nice. Special occasion?" "Just taking the kids to a movie with Amanda and her daughter." "Amanda? My Amanda?" "Your friend, yes. The kids wanted to see that new animated movie, and we figured we'd make it a group thing." "When did you and Amanda get so close?" I turned to look at her directly. "Sarah, we're friends. That's what happens when people actually spend time together and enjoy each other's company." The implication hung in the air. "Unlike us" was the unspoken end to that sentence. "I don't think it's appropriate," she said quietly. "What's not appropriate? 2 single adults taking their kids to a movie?" "We're not single. We're married." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "Are we, though? You wanted roommates. You wanted separate lives. You got what you asked for." The breaking point came 3 weeks later. Sarah asked me to sit down for a serious talk. We were back at that kitchen table where this had all started 6 months earlier. "I made a mistake," she said, tears already in her eyes. "I was confused and scared, and I thought the grass was greener, but it's not. I miss you. I miss us. I want to try again, really try." I'd imagined this moment 100 times in those first few weeks. In my fantasies, I'd hear those words and feel relief, validation, hope. We'd hug, maybe cry together and start rebuilding. But sitting there, actually hearing her say it, I felt nothing. No, that's not quite right. I felt sad. Sad for her, sad for the time we'd wasted, sad for what we'd lost. "Sarah," I said gently, "I can't do this." "Please," she begged. "I know I hurt you. I know I was selfish, but we have kids together. We have history. Doesn't that mean something?" "It means everything," I said. "Emma and Jake are my world, and I will always co-parent with you respectfully because of them. But the marriage? That ended the night you asked to be roommates." "That's not fair," she said, crying harder now. "You agreed to it. You went along with it." "You're right, I did. And you know what? It was the best decision I could have made. It gave me space to realize I'd been holding on to something that was already gone. You fell out of love with me, Sarah. You wanted to pursue someone else. You can't just decide you want me back now because things didn't work out the way you hoped. So that's it? You're just done?" "I'm not done being your co-parent. I'm not done being civil and respectful. But yes, I'm done waiting for you to love me. I'm done being someone's backup plan." "What about Amanda?" she asked, suddenly, anger creeping into her voice. "Are you leaving me for her?" "I'm not leaving you for anyone. I'm choosing myself. Amanda is a friend, but even if she were more, that's not why I'm saying no to trying again. I'm saying no because you taught me that I deserve someone who's sure about me, who doesn't need to test the waters elsewhere to realize what they have." She was sobbing now, and part of me wanted to comfort her, the part of me that had loved her for over a decade. But the stronger part, the part that had learned self-respect over these months, knew that comforting her would send the wrong message.
The next few weeks were tense. Sarah was clearly hurt and angry, oscillating between trying to win me back and giving me the cold shoulder. But I maintained my boundaries. I filed for divorce. Not out of anger or spite, but because it was time. We needed to officially end what had been over for a long time. Sarah didn't contest it, though she cried when I told her I'd retained a lawyer. "I thought maybe you'd change your mind," she admitted. "I'm not trying to hurt you," I told her honestly. "But we both need closure. Real closure, not this limbo we've been living in." The kids, surprisingly, took it well. We sat them down together and explained that Mommy and Daddy loved them very much, but were going to live in different houses soon. We emphasized that nothing was their fault, that we'd both still be very involved in their lives, that the only thing changing was the living arrangement. Emma, wise beyond her 7 years, asked, "But you're already living in different rooms anyway, right?" Kids notice everything. We decided Sarah would move out and get an apartment nearby. I'd keep the house, since my job was more flexible for kid logistics, and it would maintain stability for Emma and Jake. We agreed on a 50-50 custody arrangement, alternating weeks. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary.
Here's what nobody tells you about choosing yourself. It's not some instant happily ever after. I had days where I questioned everything. Days where I wondered if I should have tried to forgive Sarah, if I was throwing away my family for pride. Days where coming home to an empty house on the weeks the kids were with Sarah felt unbearably lonely. But I also had amazing days. Days where I'd take Emma and Jake to the park and we'd laugh until our stomachs hurt. Days where I'd meet up with friends and remember who I was outside of being a husband or father. Days where I'd sit in my own house, decorated exactly how I wanted it, and feel peace. The situation with Amanda naturally evolved. Once Sarah and I were officially separated and heading toward divorce, Amanda and I started actually dating. Not because she was a rebound, but because we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. She understood the complexity of blended families and co-parenting. She never pushed for more than I was ready to give. Sarah struggled with this, understandably. Seeing her friend date her ex-husband couldn't have been easy. But Amanda had been honest with Sarah from the start, and ultimately, Sarah had to recognize that she'd set these wheels in motion. Michelle told me later that Sarah had a breakdown at girls' night, saying she'd destroyed the best thing in her life chasing a fantasy, that she'd taken me for granted, assuming I'd always be there waiting. I felt bad for her. I really did. But I also knew I'd made the right choice.
If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be divorced, dating my ex-wife's friend, and genuinely happy, I would have laughed in your face. That wasn't the life I'd planned. That wasn't the story I thought I was living. But life rarely goes according to plan, does it? Here's what I learned through all this. First, you teach people how to treat you. When Sarah suggested the roommate arrangement, I could have said no. I could have insisted on couples therapy or a trial separation or just a clean divorce. But I said yes, thinking maybe she'd realize what she was losing. That was my mistake. I put my dignity aside, hoping she'd change her mind, instead of respecting myself enough to walk away from a situation that hurt me. Second, you can't negotiate desire. Sarah didn't want me anymore. Maybe she would have eventually, maybe she wouldn't have. But trying to prove my worth to her or wait for her to rediscover her feelings was never going to work. You can't logic someone into loving you. Third, sometimes the life you didn't plan is better than the one you did. Yes, I'm divorced. Yes, my kids split time between two homes. Those aren't the ideal circumstances I'd hoped for. But I'm modeling self-respect for my children. I'm showing them that it's okay to walk away from situations that diminish you. I'm teaching Emma that she should never settle for someone who's lukewarm about her. And I'm teaching Jake that it's okay to have feelings and prioritize your well-being. And finally, choosing yourself isn't selfish. This was the hardest lesson for me. I felt guilty about divorcing Sarah. I felt like I was breaking up my family. But staying in a marriage where I wasn't valued, where I was just the reliable backup plan, wouldn't have been good for anyone. Not for me, not for Sarah, and especially not for our kids. It's been almost 2 years since that kitchen table conversation that changed everything. Emma is 9 now, Jake is 7. They're both doing great. They've adjusted to the two-home situation better than I feared. They love their rooms at both houses. They love that they get focused time with each parent. And most importantly, they're not growing up in a house filled with tension and resentment. Sarah and I have a good co-parenting relationship now. It took time, and there were some rough patches, but we're both committed to putting the kids first. She's actually dating someone new. A guy from her gym who seems decent enough. I'm happy for her. I genuinely am. Amanda and I are still together, taking things slow. She's been amazing with Emma and Jake, never trying to replace their mother, but being a positive presence in their lives. We talk about the future sometimes, but we're not rushing anything. We've both learned the hard way that solid foundations take time to build. I still have hard days. Days where I mourn the family unit I thought I'd have forever. Days where I wonder what would have happened if I'd fought harder for my marriage before things got to that breaking point. But mostly, I have good days. Great days even. I look at my life now and I see a man who knows his worth. A man who chose dignity over desperation. A man who's present and engaged with his kids because he's not emotionally depleted from a one-sided relationship. A man who's open to love but doesn't need it to feel complete. The old me would have done anything to keep Sarah, would have accepted the roommate arrangement indefinitely, hoping she'd come around, would have ignored my own needs to maintain the illusion of an intact family. The new me knows better.
So what's the moral of this story? What's the takeaway from my journey from heartbroken husband to self-assured single dad? It's this: never make someone a priority who only makes you an option. Sarah wanted the security of marriage, the stability I provided, the image of a family, without actually being invested in our relationship. She wanted her cake and to eat it too. And for a while, I let her have that because I was afraid of losing her completely. But here's the truth I had to learn the hard way. I'd already lost her. The moment she fell for someone else and suggested we live as roommates, the marriage was over. I just hadn't accepted it yet. And yes, it hurt when she realized her mistake and wanted me back. Part of me, a small part, wondered if I should give her another chance. But I had spent 6 months learning to live without her, learning to be happy on my own, learning that I deserved someone who was certain about me. I couldn't unlearn those lessons just because she'd changed her mind. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes history isn't enough. Sometimes even having kids together isn't enough to justify staying in a relationship where you're not valued. And walking away from that, choosing yourself, that's not giving up. That's not being selfish. That's self-preservation. That's self-respect. If you're in a similar situation, if you're holding on to someone who's already let you go, I want you to hear this. You deserve more. You deserve someone who's excited to be with you, not someone who's keeping you around as a safety net while they explore other options. Letting go is terrifying. I won't pretend it's not. The fear of being alone, of breaking up your family, of having to rebuild your entire life, it's overwhelming. But you know what's more terrifying? Looking back in 10 years and realizing you wasted the best years of your life waiting for someone to choose you who never would. Choose yourself first. Build a life you're proud of. Show your kids what self-respect looks like. Open to love, but don't depend on it for your happiness. That's what I did, and I can honestly say I'm happier now than I've been in years. Is my life perfect? No. Is it what I planned? Definitely not. But it's authentic. It's mine. And I'm not settling for crumbs of affection from someone who couldn't appreciate the full meal they had. To everyone who stuck with me through this whole story, thank you. I know it was long, and I know it probably hit close to home for some of you. If this resonated with you, if you're going through something similar, drop a comment. Share your story. Sometimes just knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. And remember, you are worthy of a love that's certain. Don't settle for anything less. Thanks for listening to my story. Now go choose yourself.